Lebanon's civil war, a small number of women took up arms and joined the men on the front lines. These female fighters were not many, but in places like here, on what used to be Beirut's front line, they made up for their small numbers by their commitment in combat. The following film by Bilal Khreis hears from some of these women. It offers a fresh perspective on the Lebanese conflict and on the issue of women at war. This is Women Warriors.
My sister's name was Sophie. She was killed in 1977 in a bomb blast in the street at El Tayouni. She met with her destiny on her way to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. I loved her so much, was very attached to her. She was my best friend. If she was still alive, maybe my life would have been different. I wouldn't have continued to fight in the war. I would have stopped, because she wouldn't have allowed me. She hated war and anything to do with war. 2 weeks after Sophie's death, my brother was struck in the head by shrapnel when a bomb hit our house. It was only a small piece of shrapnel, but it paralyzed him. This is the old road to Sidon. Many fierce battles took place all around this area from 1977 onwards. As soon as the fighting erupted, they closed the roads, and all hell broke loose. The first time I held a weapon was in 1977. I was about 12 years old. I fought here. I fought in Al-Matahin area, at the Hajar building, the Al-Shamuniya alleyway, and the barracks. Wherever they needed me, I was there. I moved around and fought in many places, not just in one location. And at one time, I stayed in the barracks. When a person is fighting in a battle, they don't know if they have shot someone or not. Bullets are flying from everywhere, from left and right. You simply cannot tell. If someone says they can, just disagree. I'm telling you, you cannot. Your body is so tense and you can't focus on anything, whether you've shot one particular person or another. I don't regret it, no. Why should I have regrets? I know I've defended my neighborhood, my family, and myself. My favorite weapon is the AK-47 rifle, with a rounded steel rifle stock. Also the B7s, grenades, you know, the B7, the RPG. What do you want me to love? I lived among men and saw how they were living. And when one of them would leave their home to return the next day in a coffin. What? How can you love? If I loved, do you think I would have married? It didn't even enter my mind. I now work as a school bus driver. I take the students to school. And I give them sweets and buy them crisps.
العسكر شو كنت تعطيهم لما يعذبوك؟
I used to give them a bullet. In those days, it was necessary to do so. But nowadays, we're older and have responsibilities, you know.
كيف كنت تقضي لياليك يا مس بيرو؟
As you can see, I would light coal for fire. It would be freezing cold. And sometimes you were alone. I was living a military lifestyle, living with other soldiers. I continued to live this way, and no one ever stood in my way. So I continued in this way and was comfortable with my lifestyle, and thank God I still am until now. Fire and war? They're like each other. Fire is raging and the war is raging. Fire will not die out on its own. You have to put it out yourself. In the same way, the bullets will not stop until you stop the fighting. I don't think I will ever carry a gun again.
بعد ما انتهت المعركة
When the battle ended, it was like the window of my memory had opened completely.
فتحته على وسعه. أنا كل عمري
For my whole life, I had worn men's clothes. But suddenly, I changed dramatically, a 180-degree turn.
80 درجة القصص عندي.
I started wearing skirts. I started wearing dresses and high heels. I fixed my hair the way I liked it. I bought makeup. I wanted to explore myself. I wanted to know my body. I started noticing other girls my age and the lives they led. I wanted to live like them. I'm from a village called Bint Jubail, near the border with occupied Palestine. I was about 7 years old when I first heard about something called a weapon. The first time I saw one was when my father was teaching my older brothers how to use a weapon against a monster called Israel, which could attack us at any moment. I watched my father teach my brothers how to dismantle the Kalashnikov and then how to put it back together. That's how I learned. We moved around a lot and settled in Beirut. I was about 16 years old then. That was during the Civil War in 1986. My experience in Beirut was very brief. I didn't like it because I was fighting from the roof of my building. My family lived in the same building. My family lived on the 7th floor, and I was on the rooftop. I would sometimes shoot from my bedroom window. Whenever we were spotted on the roof, we would go downstairs into the apartment. I would go into my bedroom where I kept all my school books and things and started shooting from the window. Bullets would hit my window panes. It was not a pleasant experience. I did not achieve anything. I only achieved one thing. I got to fire weapons. I went to the south because the enemy I was taught to fight was not here. Not in the streets and on the rooftops of buildings here. No, it was down there in the south, in the valleys and mountains, on the land where I grew up and which meant a lot to me, the land from which we were evicted, which was occupied and destroyed, and where we had the enemy living in our house among our belongings.
بأرضنا فإنه رجعت
That's why I wanted to fight in the south,
إذا بدك الأقوى
a great cause worth dying for.
إنه موت إنه كرمالها.
Just to show you the irony of the whole situation, the first time I carried a weapon, and then another time when I first held my son, I carried them on the same shoulder.
يعني أنا كنت أحمل
This is where I used to rest my Kalashnikov,
وبعدين أول
and when I first held my newborn son,
حتى أحمل
this is how I held him.
عادة
Usually a mother rests her newborn on the side of the heart,
بس ما بعرف
but I don't know, I just put him here. If I said that I was thinking about it at the time, I would be exaggerating. No, I didn't think much about it at all.
أنا
I was forced to be a fighter.
انفرض
My father taught me when I was 7 years old.
علمني أنا عمري 7 سنين. أنا بتصور
I don't imagine raising my son in the same way my father raised us.
بابني مثل ما عمل بيي. يمكن
Maybe the circumstances were different back
هلا
then.
نحن بظروف
The situation now doesn't justify me teaching my son to use weapons to defend himself.
هجم ليك لتدافع عن حالك. أنا
I should be the one to defend him, as I am the one who brought him into this life.
أنا إذا بدي
Even if
أختار
defending him requires me to bear arms again, that would be the only reason why I would ever carry a gun again.
My name is Comrade Maysaloon Jabr Farhat from the Al Matain village in North Metin region. The first time I used a weapon was back in 1974. I was 13, going on 14 at the time. I didn't stop until 1991. This is the area from where we based ourselves. We put up barricades and made a place for the artillery, and we took our positions. This was the main location for us, here on this hill, called Hill Rib Talatin. This place holds many memories of my life. This soil brings back many memories. We used to dig the bunkers with a pickaxe and a shovel. We'd remove the soil and put it in sandbags. This soil is very special to my heart. This is the location of Hill Rib Talatin. This was our bunker. Opposite the trench is the El Adisa village, where the Israelis and the forces of Israel's ally, Saad Haddad, would ambush us. We fought here for 3 years until 1978. This is the Al Manara location. That's where the enemy maintained a very strong position. They were heavily barricaded there. I have attended 3 military training courses. Each was for a full 40 days. For each training course, they used to bring me to the south, from the eastern strip to the middle strip. This site is still the same. It didn't change. But then again, it has been 30 or 35 years now. So I'm sure many things have changed. In our days, it was not exactly the same. I love weapons a lot. They are part of me. I feel they are part of my blood. This gun is our honor and our dignity. After I was married and became pregnant, I continued as a fighter. For 6 months of my pregnancy, I carried a gun. But then I felt tired and rested until the time I gave birth. Maybe I have killed many. I cannot say how many. But it isn't necessary to count them. So many people were injured in the battles. I injured many people. And likewise, I was injured here and here. Palestine is south of the south. Palestine is the national cause. I was 14 years old when I married. I married a fighter from the Syrian Socialist Nationalist Party. For a period of time, we were fighting on different fronts. In 1986, he was killed in action when we were fighting in the same location but in different places. We all had a common destiny, to become a martyr. My son was arrested in 1985. He was 15, turning 16 years old. I am 14 or 15 years older than my son. He carried out an operation against the Jews and Israelis. And he was arrested and sent to Athlete prison for 2 years. After that, he was taken to Al Khayyam prison, where he was held for 10 years. I raised him to struggle, to be a fighter, and I will raise my grandchildren in the same way.
There's a difference between studying God and experiencing Him personally. We discovered Him in many dangerous places, in the killing fields and in such places where we thought that He would not be present. But it was in just those places where He came to us. There was one night that I considered the beginning of when my life and my personality changed. The first time I ever held a gun was in 1973, when I began training. And at that time, there was a lot of talk about the Palestinian armed presence in Lebanon and how it was dangerous to Lebanon's security and sovereignty. Fighting broke out between the Lebanese army and the Palestinian Liberation Organization in Lebanon. We were defending each other against an enemy that was aiming its guns at us. On the night of May 6, 1976, in Martyr Square, in the city center, there was a battle. And I mean battle in all senses of the word. The area was empty. I moved forward slowly with the other female fighters. We requested to be relocated to one of the front lines where the enemy was present. I mean the Palestinians or their allies. The opposition forces occupied a building in Martyr Square each night. So we sought permission from our leaders to seize this building. But they refused as they feared for our lives. But one day, without orders, we proceeded to secure the building and made the building our position. I was in charge of this site and decided to change the position of our defense. That night, the night of May 6th, they launched a very strong attack on our location. Even though there was a ceasefire agreement, they attacked us in the hundreds. About 2 or 3 hours before the attack, I had a feeling they would attack us. For the first time in my life, I really and truthfully prayed to God. She's watching over each one of us. There was a great feeling of fear and tension. But there was no time to think because bullets were coming ever closer to us, so we had to react quickly. After 5 hours, they got very close and surrounded us. But we managed to stop the attack and push them back. They almost reached us, but thank God, I consider this our baptism. I think that women can be better fighters than men. Because a woman has inside of her all the energy of mothering, and all the energy of life, and all the energy of love. This energy is used to defend the people she loves. Training to fight was a good experience for me, a positive one. It suited my personality and my nature. The training gave me, as it gave everyone else, a kind of serious strength. It made me ready for anything in the future. I think it was a school to build self-esteem and confidence. You were asking me if I was ever afraid because I've killed. During fighting, you kill the person coming at you and shooting at you. You don't have time to think about not killing him. The instinct of self-protection is a natural human instinct that God put in us. In war, there's no time to think. I don't know for sure, but I guess that people were killed by us shooting at them. But did I ever regret it? Never. I thank God so much for the peace within. I cannot explain how. I guess God is the reason why I have peace within. My weapon now, it's the rosary beads, because I'm a strong believer in God's presence, and I have faith in Him. And I strongly believe that the Virgin Mary is our mother. And she is watching over us like she watched over Jesus Christ. She's watching over each one of us.
During Lebanon's civil war and Israel's invasion and occupation of Lebanon, some women fought on the front lines. These women warriors proved determined and were often resourceful in the weapons they used.
الله أكبر أيها المؤمنون والمؤمنات Maraka is the village of the last stand, the gate of freedom, and the mother of all villages. The name is truly deserving and is no exaggeration. My name is Raja Hassan. I'm one of the people from the village of Maraka. I'm one of the sisters, one of the girls, one of the women who played an important and active role in confronting Israel during the invasion of 1982. This is one of the holes that the people of Maraka use for tobacco. My sisters and I used it to bury guns, to hide important things like weapons and ammunition. The rooftop of the houses were used as a bridge and made it easier for us to move from the lower end of town to the center of the village. In this way, we could quickly reach the alleyway where the Israelis would fight us. In this alley, Hassan Saad caught an Israeli soldier and pinned him down, suffocating him. She didn't get off him until his friends came to his help. But they could only get her off him after shooting her in the leg. This alleyway really has a history. This is where we tricked the Israelis. We would run to another alleyway so they would come and follow us. And at that moment, one of the sisters had prepared boiling oil on the stove. And honestly, this trap was very useful because we surprised the Israelis and burnt them. Here, from above the wall on the roof, one of the sisters would pour a pot full of boiling oil on them. It was a horrific scene for the Israelis. The oil we used was the normal type we cook with. I don't want to make an advertisement for it, but it was just corn oil, the one we usually cook with. We could stay without oil or food, but the most important thing was to confront the enemy. What you see in front of you is a fist holding a stone. This fist is a symbol of holiness for the people of Maraka. It was the only effective and reliable way to defend ourselves against Israel when they came into the village with their Merkava tanks. When Israel first entered the village with Merkavas, it was confronted by this fist, the children's fist, and especially the women's fist. In 1984, Rabin named the attack on South Lebanon and on this village as the Iron Fist, because of the losses Israel endured at the time. We promise you, Rabin, that the fist of Imam Hussein will respond to your iron fist.
My name is Wafat Nasrallah. I carried out a military operation in 1978 during the first Israeli invasion of Lebanon. And I am still a fighter. Back in 1978, my brother was a fighter with the resistance. I was the youngest sister at home, and I was very attached to my brother, so I would always follow him around, even when he was hiding his weapons or moving them from place to place. It was because of him that I first learned about weapons and first came to like them. When I grew older, I had a feeling that he was carrying out resistance operations, and I wanted to know why he was fighting, who he was fighting. I realized there was somebody, which is Israel, trying to invade our country, and that people were fighting back. My brother was one of those people. More and more, I liked the idea of joining the military. I began to start liking guns. I loved guns, not like little boys who play with toy guns. I would clean all the parts of the gun, put it away and hide it. My first military operation was planting a bomb to blow up an Israeli convoy of 6 trucks. At that time, girls played a bigger role than young men, as girls were less likely to be caught and arrested by Israeli soldiers. Because of this, we girls would be able to hide the explosives under our clothes and travel to the location where we were required to plant the bombs. We would wear 2 layers of clothing, called the shari'i. We would take off 1 layer and access the explosives strapped to our waist. Of course, our brothers were waiting for us in a different location. We would then prepare the bomb, get it ready with a wire attached, so that our brothers in the resistance could then remotely detonate it. That was my first military operation, and it was carried out at the Al-Madi intersection. Wherever there is a fighter, Israel will chase them. Our house was well known to the Israelis. In 1982, Israel marked our house with an X because they were looking for me, because I had fought fearlessly against an Israeli soldier at the Mount Amal intersection at the time when Israel invaded us. Back then, I had snatched the gun from the Israeli soldier and hit him with it. An Israeli filmed this incident so the Israelis were able to identify me. They approached the mayor of our town and said they didn't want any discussion, they just wanted me to be handed over. The usual procedure at that time was to mark the house of a wanted person with an X. Either the wanted person would be handed over or their house would be burned. The mayor came to convince my parents to hand me over to the Israelis if they knew my whereabouts and that he would handle the matter. For 6 years, I stayed away from my family. I would see my sister on the balcony of our house or see my father passing by from a distance. We were working on a particular operation to plant a bomb. We were ready to detonate it when my father was passing by. So the fighters did not go ahead with the operation. They said, "No, this is your father. You need to be extremely disciplined to succeed in military operations." Most killings of collaborators were carried out by women. Yes, I took part, and I did kill some Israelis face to face. I only killed for the rights of my people. We did not attack the enemy, it was the enemy who attacked us, and I had to fight back. My second daughter, she is about 19 or 20 years old. Her military name is al-Banin. She's had military training. My third daughter is 11 years old. She is a fierce fighter. She says, "I am my mother's daughter." Her military name is Batul. My youngest boy, Hussein Abu Ali, is 6 years old. He knows how to shoot a gun. He can descend a building by a rope. He wears a military uniform and he marches like a soldier. He can crawl like a fighter. He can dismantle a weapon and tell you exactly what each piece is used for. Those children alone are a battalion.
When I managed to get inside Antoine Lahad's house, I saw him and sat a meter away from him in his sitting room. I told my contact in Beirut that had I had a gun with me at that time, I would have shot him. So we started to prepare for the operation. I was wearing a pink skirt and blouse. Under the blouse, I wore a white shirt. That was the fashion at the time. I had the gun fixed to my hip with a bandage. I arrived at Covert and from there I had to walk and was stopped and frisked at a security checkpoint. The man searching me brushed over the gun but was not paying attention. However, I panicked and pretended I knew the person in charge. So I asked the man, "Is Mr. Ramon here?" The man immediately stopped the search and said, "Yes, of course. Do you know Mr. Ramon? You're welcome, please come in." So I got through the checkpoint with the gun. This was the first time I entered Antoine Lahad's house with a gun. When I entered, I still remember that he was eating lentils. I was then about to pull the gun, but instead I pulled out a tissue and left the house without carrying out the operation. This was the first time I had felt such a dilemma. The operation was on November 7th, 1988. I managed to enter Antoine Lahad's house again, but without being searched, with a 7mm gun in my bag. Everybody who could have been there was there. This is where I carried out the operation. I was sitting right here. Sitting next to me was Antoine Lahad. There was only a table between me and Antoine. On the table was a telephone. Over here was the television. Sitting over here was Cesar Saka and his wife, and also Antoine Lahad's wife. It was about 5 to 8, and the news was on television showing the Intifada. Antoine Lahad immediately changed the channel. The telephone then rang. As soon as Antoine answered it, I pulled my gun out and fired a shot into his heart. He was still standing. I fired a second shot into his shoulder, and that's when he fell to the ground. After I shot Antoine, I sat still and didn't move until one of Lahad's soldiers grabbed me and escorted me out of the house. He started shouting, "Do not shoot! Do not shoot!" From there, we entered Israel, and after that, Al-Khayyam prison. There were 7 bullets in the gun, and I shot 2. Now, why 2? It was planned beforehand that I would fire only 2 bullets. The first bullet was a message for the Lebanese people to save their bullets in the civil war and to use them against Israel's occupation, not against each other. The second was a salute to the children of the Intifada, so I kept my promise by only shooting 2 bullets. There are many things you reconsider in life, and those 5 remaining bullets are one of them. During my time in prison, I would continually think back, like a tape recorder playing over and over again. The tape would play continuously because I was isolated for 6 years. I was thinking a lot. You might ask me, what's the difference between my memoirs and the bullet? The bullet was for the cause of freedom, and my memoirs are for the continued existence of that freedom.
ماذا لو التقيتي بأنطوان لحد في أحد مطارات أوروبا أو في أحد مدن أوروبا؟
It's none of my business. For all I care, he can die from a heart attack. There's no sense of personal revenge between me and Antoine Lahad. No personal revenge. There was an invader, and we fought against this invader. This is the first time I enter this house. I don't enter feeling fearful because of what this house represents. It is a strong symbol of the Israeli occupation in every sense. This is the first time I enter this house without feeling like I was entering the barracks of Martyr, which was Israel's largest barracks, the center of its military, intelligence, and civil administration. This is the first time I have entered without an Israeli permit.
أنا الشهيدة سناء محيدي عمري 18 سنة. أنا من جنوب لبنان، الجنوب المحتل المقهور. مرتاحة كتير لأني راح أنفذ هالعملية اللي اخترتها أنا، لأنه عم قوم بواجبي نحو أرضي تجاه شعبي. وبتمنى كمان إنه تكون عمليتي ناجحة مشان تقتل أكبر عدد ممكن من جيش العدو. بتمنى إنه روحي تتعانق مع أرواح الشهداء. أنا من ضمن مجموعة قررت الفداء والاستشهاد بسبيل تحرير شعبنا وأرضنا. بدي وجه لأمي بطلب السماح منها إنها تترحم علي على أساس روح رحت بدون ما ودعها. وانتي يا أمي علمتيني إنه أحب وضحي وأحترم. هاي أنا بحب بلادي وعم ضحي بحياتي وبحترم شعب جنوبي وأرضي، لأن دمي رح يغسل أرض جنوبي من دنس اليهود.
بتحس السلاح خسرك شيء من أنوثتك؟
Yes, they say I'm masculine because I carry a gun. They say, look at her, she's masculine. Who would dare talk to me? She used to fight, she used to do this and that.
On the contrary, the gun doesn't take away your femininity. It actually gives you strength, self-esteem, and confidence.
A woman has inside of her all the energy of mothering and all the energy of life and all the energy of love. This energy is used to defend the people she loves.
When I used to hold a gun and shoot, I would feel that I was different from other girls my age or older. I felt like I could do anything. that I had power and I was stronger.
At the start of training, I refused to shoot the head of the cardboard target. So they realized that I was squeamish about body parts exploding.
Impossible. If I go out without a gun, I feel that there is something wrong. I don't feel myself.